It's amazing how quiet it is. This is the 2-minute warning. We have not gone live yet on TV, so thank you early on for being here tonight.
Here we are. We're live. Is everybody ready?
I'd like to welcome you to the March 10th meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education. At 5 p.m., the board held a work session where we discussed the roles and responsibilities of SBDM councils and their effect on student achievement. Please join us for our traditional moment of silence, after which we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, after which Board Member Debbie Weston will read our vision statement. So please join us for a moment of silence. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Westland.
Thank you. Our vision is that all JCPS students graduate prepared to reach their full potential and contribute to our society throughout life.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the February 24th minutes? Mr. Brady, second. Ms. Haddad, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, we have our recognition of the Forward Next Generation Learning Community. Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Hargens, Board Chair Diane Porter, and members of the Jefferson County Board of Education. Tonight, we are extremely proud and honored to recognize the Jefferson County Public School District Ford Next Generation Learning Community Co-Chairs. On March 4th, the Ford Motor Company Fund named the Jefferson County Public School District a Ford Next Generation Learning Community. Ford NGL districts are a growing network of communities that are transforming public high schools into career-themed academies. JCPS becomes one of 17 districts nationally to earn this prestigious designation. The honor is bestowed upon the district for the work and leadership of the co-chairs, the efforts of more than 45 JCPS community and business leaders, and the leadership of the Jefferson County Public Education Foundation. These leaders were divided into 3-strand teams. The Transforming Teaching and Learning team, chaired by Debbie Anderson and co-chaired by James Reddish. The Redesigning High School team, chaired by Audwin Helton and co-chaired by Brian Shoemate. And the Sustaining Change Through Business and Civic Leadership team, chaired by Deborah Hoffer and co-chaired by Christy Lanier Robinson. The mission of the Ford NGL is to mobilize educators, employers, and community leaders to prepare a new generation of young people who will graduate from high school, college, and career-ready and life-ready in an emerging workforce prepared to compete successfully in the 21st century economy. Board Chair Diane Porter and Dr. Hargens, please come forward to congratulate the JCPS Ford NGL Community Co-Chairs for their hard work and commitment. Please come forward. Thank you, Dr. Hargens and board members. This concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
At this time, is there a motion to receive the recognitions? Mr. Brady, second. Mr. Hadaway, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to, before we do the consent calendar, Board Member Jones has a recommendation as it pertains to the agenda.
I move to waive Board Policy 1.45 Board Meeting Agenda and amend the agenda to move discussion items 7A and B up to this point in the agenda.
Okay, there is a motion to move that up on the agenda. Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Brady, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. So at this time, we will go straight to the discussion items. Dr. Hargens? Yeah, we made a motion and second, and it was to do that.
Okay. The first actually discussion item is going to be a presentation of the GE Foundation review. And if I could, and we're actually going to be bringing in our presenters, and there they are. And actually, if Sabine Nassim would come to the table. Sabine is the GE project manager. Ms. Nassim has worked with GE. And one of the things I want to say is, before I even became superintendent, I went to the GE Foundation convening that happened. And the work that was happening was extraordinary. And we are definitely better because of the GE Foundation and grant. So what happens is that we get a report. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Nassim, who's going to introduce our presenters and tell us where they're joining us from.
Okay. And quickly, Sabine, real quickly, I forgot to do something. So for those that we recognized, if you would like to leave at this time, you are more than welcome to do so, or if you'd like to stay for the presentation, we you're more than welcome to do so. I'm sorry. Sabine?
Good evening, board members. We have Ann Kilcher, who is a GE Foundation consultant, and Lawrence Ryan, who is also a GE Foundation consultant and been working with the GE Foundation for a number of years. And they also do a lot of consulting on the side. I know Ann has been working with Chattanooga School District in Tennessee, and they have a lot of expertise and a lot of experience. And they've been doing these reviews with the GE Foundation. We've been doing these reviews, I want to say since 2011, they've been doing annual reviews. And before that, and Ann and Lawrence, you can tell me otherwise, they've been doing toll gates, which are similar to these reviews. But these reviews themselves are based off of feedback from, and a number of you have been interviewed by Ann and Lawrence, or a number of other consultants, but they're based off of feedback and voices that they've heard throughout the district, whether from teachers, administrators, or yourselves, or the community members themselves. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it up to Ann and Lawrence and some of the feedback that they're going to provide. That was done back in November of 2013.
Thank you much.
That was David. That was David
Just
Jones.
saying hello.
Hi.
Actually, you know what? If you don't mind, board members, can we go ahead and introduce you, because you are some of you guys are new. If we could take just a minute, Dr. Harkins, would that be okay? And Diane, would that be all right?
Mm-hmm, that's
okay.
Fine. Shall we start down with Mr. Brady and work up?
My name is Chris Brady, board member for District 7.
Carol Haddad, board member for District 6.
Linda Duncan, board member for District 5.
Chuck Hadaway, District 4.
Debbie Westland, District 3.
David Jones, 2.
Diane Porter, 1.
And Donna Hargan's the superintendent on this end.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sabine and Dr. Harkins, for your kind comments. I just going to give a little quick background about the review. There was a 6-person team from the GE Foundation in Louisville in November, and we were in 24 schools. We visited 274 classrooms for classroom observations, and 190 people participated in either interviews or focus groups. So we feel we have a good sample that we can stand on in terms of the information we have. I'm going to touch on a few general overview comments and then turn it over to Ann. It's about leadership and culture. We're actually looking at, these are very, very important indicators in terms of how successful you will be in terms of implementing around general core. We've learned them over the past 5 or 6 years in doing these reviews. Leadership and the first two are around collaboration and teamwork and high expectations. Looking at, usually you see an these are very, very in both of those in terms if you're being successful around the shift to common core or implementing general. We've learned them over the past 5 or 6 years in doing these reviews. The first two are around collaboration throughout the district, and we also saw usually you see these are very, very both of those, and essentially you're being successful move around the common will and shift to common core. People were we learned that as a challenge, we saw significant doing these reviews. The first two are principles that were well the district, and we also saw usually you see these are very, very both principles that essentially you're being successful around the common will and shift to common core. People were the district leadership challenges and evaluating these reviews and transition coordinators. Principles were very critical, and we also saw both principles that
we also took a look at the structures and strategies that have been put in place to support improvement in instruction, and the professional learning communities and common planning time is proving to be very powerful. It's leading to consistency across classrooms. And in many schools, we actually observe they're following a common lesson plan throughout the school. The coaches are very, very appreciated. People spoke highly about almost all of them, saying they were knowledgeable, available, dedicated, they were committed, and they said they were absolutely key to helping teachers make the changes in the classroom. They appreciate the support that's been put in place at the school level but they kind of feel like they don't get as much district, and they want both. They want a balance of site-based time, but they also want some district and continuing to have national level expertise come to the district to help them continue to learn. Again, the school-based administrators, really valuable these school-based administrative teams that are being put in place and the time for joint problem solving and sharing. And also they want some time, back to the professional development comment, they want time to network, coaches want to network with each other, and teachers are interested in talking to teachers from other schools.
Also, general observations. Many, if not most, of the teachers and principals in the system and central office people are very committed to Common Core and believe it's a good move for students. The quality of the teaching that we experienced in Jefferson County was very, very strong to excellent. That's not always the case when we go into a school district, but in most of the schools we found that the teaching was very impressive, and the one factor that we could see was that students were owning the learning. And that's a great indicator. We are also very impressed with the range of intervention strategies that schools were doing to support students. But in most of the schools, we found that the teaching was very impressive. And the one factor that we could see was that, and this is something we often don't see in other school districts, and we did see that has increased in Jefferson County as well. Two challenges that came through, the curriculum gap, and I'm sure everybody around the table knows about that. We have the standards, but the curriculum is slower coming, and that's not only true about Jefferson County. And of course you have challenges with elementary reading and students struggling coming into your district with reading readiness.
I'm going to make a few comments about the English language arts. The teachers seem to be embracing the instructional shifts, asking text-dependent questions and citing evidence. We saw a good balance of use of fiction and non-fiction informational text. The learning targets, we saw learning targets that really focused the learning in every classroom, and they were aligned to student work. In other districts, other people are still just learning how to do this. There's some purposeful attention to vocabulary work. Some schools have a school-wide strategy for that, and others don't. They're bringing the social studies and science into the ELA, and vice versa. They're bringing the literacy strategies into other subject areas. We saw purposeful writing in some of the schools, but not all of the schools. And then a major challenge is the readiness levels and gaps that kids are coming in with reading levels.
I'm briefly going to comment on the mathematics. Generally, from observing teachers, that we believe that the majority of teachers are making the shifts to the Common Core standards, and very rarely do we go into a classroom in Jefferson County where we saw a mismatch between the standard being taught and what the teacher and the standard that was recommended. Teachers are also beginning the implementation of the 8 mathematical practices, which are critical as well, and we're seeing some movement on those across different districts. Teachers are really appreciating the learning opportunities provided by Jefferson County Public Schools. We heard many teachers talk about the summer institutes that were being provided. Also, the CPM training, the partnership with Vanderbilt, they were very, very positive about that as well. The schools are also implementing math intervention programs and a variety of programs, and we were very, very impressed. I think that's one of the strongest things we see in Jefferson County is the intervention going on. There are 4 challenges in mathematics. One is the skills gap. There are still gaps of students with mathematical skills. I'm sure that's not a surprise. I also mentioned that there's more of a demand to do reading around the Common Core, and of course that's an issue at the elementary level. Building stamina among students so that they can hold on to difficult tasks and continue to push their way through problems is really critical, and it's challenging everywhere. And meeting all the standards is the 4th challenge that everybody talked about in Jefferson County. I'm going to turn it back to Ann, and Ann is going to talk about a number of the recommendations.
As you can hear from our summary, we're very impressed with the progress that JCPS is making and the hard work that your teachers and administrators are doing. So we have 10 recommendations, which is a bit much, but we just want it to be specific in some cases and help you to continue the work. So Lawrence already alluded to it. The frustration within the educators of wanting the curriculum. They want it, they're too slow and they're frustrated and they want it fast. And just a caution on this is some schools are starting to develop their own curriculum independently, and we think that it would probably be better orchestrated as a district initiative and at least get the sharing across schools. Many of the educators said, couldn't you just take the summer and get the curriculum ready so we start next school year with curriculum in our core subject areas. They also, we thought, we saw some systematic vocabulary development, and we thought it would be great if every school systematically had a school-wide approach to vocabulary, since that's a big component of the Common Core. And continue working on the 8 mathematical practices. Lawrence talked about work that started. I believe Tim Truitt's working with Vanderbilt, and just continue working with the 8 mathematical practices. And then just be thinking about all the opportunities we have for adult learning time. You put many structures and strategies in place, but let's just continue being sure that our adults are learning, because when our adults are learning, kids learn more.
I also wanted to comment on district leadership in Jefferson County has already started to implement a number of the recommendations we have in this report, by the way. Number 6 on the recommendations is the goal clarity coaches are really critical to success. We're finding this across all the school districts. Coaching is critical to improving instructional instruction and also increasing achievement. So we really believe that special attention needs to be paid to help them be part of the learning community, to network and receive ongoing professional development. Another area is hiring content coaches. It's very, very difficult for a generic coach to cover math, science, literacy, ELA. And some of the problems that teachers and principals are experiencing in the district is around the lack of content knowledge and teachers not having the content knowledge they need. So having those resource people and assigning them to each achievement area, I know it's a cost factor for you folks, but we think that will make a difference and people are asking for it. The district has a reputation of providing excellent professional development, and we want to encourage the district to consider to continue to do the kind of professional development they're actually doing, and also to bring that to a national level, to bring in national level people who can work on certain areas, for example, differentiated instruction and student engagement. Think about ways to implement the new generation science standards as well, and communication too. Jefferson County, out of all our school districts, did an admirable job on communicating with parents and the community and to show the impact, and we encourage you to continue to do that and be very consistent inside and outside the district with your messages.
And then in summary, we just have about 4 comments. We really are pleased with the movement with Jefferson County. We see you as a moving and improving district, and we're very thrilled about your, your getting the adequate measurement. You're meeting that standard.
And we also recommended that Jefferson County has made a lot of really good decisions. The leadership in Jefferson County under Dr. Hargens, you have moved a lot of the resources out to the schools, and the schools really appreciate that. The resources and support and the elementary assistant principals and the coaches, but it's time to kind of stop and think about the way forward. Now that we put the resources in the schools are also feeling a sense of pressure and responsibility to do very, very complex and difficult work, and it's just time for the district to kind of step back and think, okay, where and how are we going forward? And your leadership is very, very capable of doing that. We know that. You're getting the work done. There's no question about that. You're probably getting the work done New York has been out front on this, but in conversations throughout the district and everywhere we go, Jefferson County is talked about as being the next district in terms of moving forward successfully. So the last point is although you get the work done, it's very, very important not to forget about working and maintaining and building relationships, because you're asking people to go above and beyond and to work hard with this very, very difficult work. And when people are working that hard, we heard teachers who are tired and discouraged and overwhelmed, and not that they're not moving, they are working hard. So it's very, very important I think critical to the success of Jefferson County is trying to manage adult motivation and the ongoing learning as you go forward, so people don't start jumping off the bus. But overall, the message from the GE Foundation is we applaud your many accomplishments in Jefferson County, and we know that the leadership around the table here and the leadership among senior management is responsible for much of that success. So we do congratulate you, and overall it was we pointed out problems you're having, but overall we believe this has been a very positive report for Jefferson County. We'll take questions if you have them.
And before we start with questions, I do want to recognize Lindsay Miller, who has been with us throughout the journey. Lindsay, would you please stand so we can thank you for your hard work? Thank you.
Thank you, Dad.
Questions? Mr. Jones, and we'll move down.
I think, let me see. I think I'm looking at you now when I look at the camera, right?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you. First, I really appreciate the report. It was very useful to me to see the efforts that the district has put forward, put in a context, and pulled out from the interviews and the data gathering with the schools. So thank you very much to GE for doing this. I really just want to ask you to tell me whether I have really correctly understood the main challenges that we should hear from your report.
Sure.
I think the first one is that the materials that teachers need to bring the standards of the Common Core into the classroom are, at the moment, they're uneven and they're lagging behind the job that we've asked the teachers to do in teaching kids at those standards. And so everybody's sort of making it up as they go along. Am I correct that that's sort of what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
You are correct in that. That was a
Okay.
very accurate interpretation. Not unique to Jefferson County. We're finding that everywhere, and all of the school districts are struggling with the same issue. The curriculum is just coming too slow.
Okay. But for the school board, we need to understand that
Absolutely.
we've got to prioritize the things that are appropriately done at the central level and figure out how to get after that to provide that needed support, or we'll launch 130 different programs accidentally.
Exactly.
Actually, there's some good work being done out there in the schools, and I think if you even gathered it, you might have a good start of what they're doing in the independent schools.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, another innovation challenge.
Yes.
Great. The other thing is, and this is in several of your other recommendations, that training and professional development is a key theme, and we really have to get on top of that. Teachers are being asked to change the way they teach. The standards are higher. There's a lot more integrative learning being asked for. It's a time when teachers don't just have to teach facts; they have to do all that. Teach how to learn across disciplines, and so the professional development activity needs to change, and we have to somehow find the resources to beef that up. And if I hear your observations correctly, that is a pretty big need right now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other huge piece that I'm missing? If you had to put it in 2 points instead of 10?
Well, I guess that, your frontline people are the coaches. you put the coaches out there, but they need to be developed because they're the first line that people go to. They need opportunities to network with one another, and you need to continue their learning.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you.
Ms. Westland?
Good evening. Thanks for being with us from far away.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great to see you, and it's great to have had you all around during all of the years I've been on the board, and I think it's given us a great bit of professionalism, and we've had the best resources available. So that's been really wonderful for our district, and it's great to hear that we've taken great use of that, and we're performing well. I'll just add on to what Mr. Jones said about another takeaway, and that's the having people with the content knowledge to really dig deeper and help get to what students need to learn and understand what they need. So that part too, I think, we'll take away. And one other thing, I'm glad you brought up the point about relationships and about listening to employees and principals and understanding their needs and knowing that we're behind them. We're not just pushing them forward, that we're really want to help and we want to be a support. And that's something I think this board and our leadership staff needs to remember too, because you just can't keep doing. Sometimes you fall over. It's so hard, and you just need to be. We need to be there to pick people up and give them another tool. So I think that's a big message too. Correct?
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
That was. I'm glad you picked up on that, because motivation is a challenge everywhere, because everyone is working very, very hard, and it's very easy to get discouraged. And paying attention to relationships and keeping people with you is critical here. You're getting the job done. You're getting the work done as good as anyone. But it's just a caution. Pay attention. You need to pay attention to the people as well as the job.
Right. Well, and I appreciate that, because there are a lot of people in the community who don't realize what a difficult job it is. It's difficult to be a teacher anyway. And right now, with implementing Common Core and the assessments changing, it's a huge, big job. So thanks for bringing that up. And I just end thanking you for being such champions for Common Core. We were out front early, as you know, and I think we've done well, and I haven't heard any educator question the use of Common Core and that they're high standards, but there's becoming a little bit of a political football, so I just want to encourage you to keep helping us with that, because we want to stay the course, and we want to be able to avoid the pitfalls of questions about it, because it's the right way. We just have to stick with it. And if there's anything you want to add that we can do to weather that, please let us know.
Okay.
Certainly. Thank you for your comments.
Sure.
I have no computer, so you may not be able to see me.
We can see you.
We can see you.
Oh, very good. All right.
It's nice to see you again.
Well, thank you. It's good to see you, and thank you so much again for all the support and wonderful leadership that you provided. I just have 3 things I'd like to comment on. One, it has to do with that curriculum that you're talking about, and I think that we always have to keep in mind that in Kentucky we have SBDM councils that don't support district curriculum. It's more each school at being responsible for the curriculum. So we've provided the standards and the maps, the curriculum maps, but not the particular details about the curriculum. So that is a challenge in all of our schools, and we recognize that, but it's also a difficult situation for us because we don't have the tools to impose a district curriculum. So that's going to be a problem that we have to work on and come up with a solution that fits all of our schools.
Yes.
Another thing
that's a challenge for Jefferson County. There's no doubt about that.
No, it makes it different. And another thing that you commented on was the need for kindergarten readiness.
Yes.
And, of course, at this point, we don't have universal preschool. We have probably 1/3 of the students that are under our tutelage, and then the other 2/3 are under private daycare centers and other institutions of learning. So what are you suggesting when you want us to take a look at that K-readiness piece? Because we do want to get the information out, and we do want to bring everybody on board, but we have no authority over that 2/3 that does not attend our schools.
Well, yes, it would be nice if you had the authority and the funding to do preschools and to bring students to a readiness level. But I think if you look at the strengths, one of the strengths of Jefferson County is your intervention strategies in your schools, that you have a variety and you have them at different levels. And there's no magic solution to this. I think it's just a question of stepping back and figuring out how can you give the kind of intervention at as early an age as you possibly can for those students, an intense intervention, because you're very good at intervention. And you just have to figure out how to do that. And there are no simple answers to how.
Another thing might be identifying some teachers or schools that are doing a good job and find out what they're doing and spread that. This is an example from another district, but I was in a K-4 classroom, and this woman had 29 kids who didn't know their alphabet, and by March, 21 of them were writing sentences. So, I mean, I bet you've got great teachers, and I bet you've got some great teachers who are really doing a good job, and you need to get sharing across the schools.
Well, there's no question. One of the things that we try to track is their kindergarten readiness when they come in, and
yes.
when they leave, they are overwhelmingly on grade level, and that's the miracle of our kindergarten teachers. So I have to speak on behalf of those teachers who do perform those miracles with kids coming in. I know one school I spoke to had 13% kindergarten ready. By the time they ended, 94% were ready for first grade, on first grade level. So
that's very impressive.
So there are some great work, or there is some great work going on at the kindergarten level.
Yes.
Last thing I wanted to ask you about, or I just wanted to comment on, content knowledge. That is, to me, one of the most important elements of being able to deal with the Common Core, the knowledge level of our teachers. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I do think it's important for us to continue professional development in content areas.
Absolutely.
The standards are difficult, and without the knowledge of the content, a teacher can't lead kids to those standards. So I appreciate the fact that you commented on that, and I do think that's something we need to invest some money in. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. We know people underestimate the power of content knowledge, and especially if you're trying to increase the rigor and you're trying to increase the standard and you're trying to bring students to conceptual understanding and a deep understanding. Well, if you're going to bring students to a deep understanding and conceptual understanding, then you need to have the conceptual understanding and the deep understanding yourself as a teacher, regardless of where you are in the system.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Ms. Haddad.
Thank you. I want to thank you first for all the years that you've given Jefferson County. It's been a wonderful experience, and I don't think we would be where we are today had you not come in and helped us. You helped us to see a lot of things that we weren't quite seeing. And it's really made a difference in our schools and the way people see education in Jefferson County. We are working, I know Linda talked about early childhood. We are working on that so that we can get more kids ready at early childhood. That's a passion we have, and that's something that we have a committee that's doing a good job trying to find more classrooms. In fact, this year we opened another early childhood center. So we need to look at that so that we can get them so when they get in school they'll be ready, and we won't have to do so much remediation. I think that's going to be the secret. We spend a lot of money on remediation, but we need to get them at the very beginning. And so we are in the process of looking at that. I don't know how much of that we'll be able to do, but you've been involved with this. It makes a difference in this community, and we really appreciate all the hard work that you've done and given us a place to start and to go forward with what we're doing. So thank you
very
again.
much for your kind comments.
And the, Jefferson County is very good. They get working on it. We get that report back there, and they respond to it right away. They're very, very good at taking the feedback and making adjustments and moving forward.
And we truly enjoy working with Jefferson County, believe me.
Yeah, we are very lucky. We have some very talented people, and we have so many people in the schools and in central office that care deeply about educating every single child. We hear things that people say that they don't, but they do, and they really care. And I don't think they get enough promise. So I'm glad that you are saying these things for the public to hear, that in fact we do have a lot of good things going on in the Jefferson County Public Schools.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Brady.
Hi, thank you again for your time. Just kind of piggyback on Member Duncan's question, and your number one recommendation is dealing with this curriculum issue. And due to the constraints that we have in Kentucky in regards to kind of deferring some of this to the SBDM, and this may be a question maybe to you if you can answer this, or to the superintendent, or even to our council here, in regards to what options do we have as a school district to deal with this constraint that we're under, because I do feel that there needs to be a coordinated effort. And I know we have the SITS resource that was mentioned earlier. We had a work session prior to this meeting, and this was sort of approached. But it seems to be there needs to be a much more active and coordinated effort from a centralized level, and not just centralized from a central office standpoint, but as you are suggesting, gathering resources and gathering maybe
Yes.
a PLC of these Goal Clarity coaches together to be able to come up with some of this content and curriculum. And my question, I guess, is twofold. One, from your standpoint, what are our options given the environment in which we have to operate in? And secondly, and again, perhaps to our council, is there any way we can get some type of waiver regarding this one issue? Because I know this is an issue that we're running up against Kara, and I'll let council go second, and I'll defer to you to answer. Give us your suggestions and what we can do to mitigate this issue.
Well, here's one thought, and I don't know if this is within your jurisdiction. Could you at least come up with a framework? So if they're out there developing units, let's say 4th grade, you're finding out what's already done and what needs to be done, so every school isn't creating the same unit. I mean, so I was just wondering if you could come up with a framework and say we need units on A, B, C, D, E, F, and maybe, because the teachers seem very open to wanting to know what other schools were doing. They don't want to create it all by themselves at the school level. So I wonder if there couldn't be some coordinated effort, and maybe you have, in the summertime, you bring together talented teachers, and they, by grade levels, begin to develop, bring their stuff and begin to develop. Teachers they don't want to do it themselves. They want to know somebody else to do it for them.
Superintendent, do you have?
Well, and actually, that is exactly the work. Somebody mentioned it with Kentucky's work with SITS, is to have this catch-all kind of place where all these best practices and resources can be housed, so that it's easier for teachers. Because as we said in the work session, is everybody duplicating effort when there's a great thing out there, if we just harness the great thing that was out there. So I think that's the next step, is building capacity on what is really complex work and not duplicating efforts, so that the teachers designing instruction, pulling from the resources to meet the needs of individual kids, is really what you want at the teacher's fingertips, rather than trying to find resources. So that is what I'm hearing is this next step is building capacity and building resources, so that we can really be working on implementing and intervening, as they mentioned, as opposed to finding the things that align.
I think Dr. Hargan I agree. What we're hearing across all the districts is teachers are spending hours and hours and hours trying to find resources. And I think if a group or central leadership can narrow the scope and say, here are the top resources, you're not taking away choice. You're just saying, here's what we believe are the top resources available for you to use when you're putting your units and lessons together. They will use that.
Is there any precedent regarding a waiver for something like this? Are you aware of anything, Rosemary?
No, I'm not aware of anything, but I was going to put on my hat as a policy advisor and agree that I would look more at the powers of persuasion than the need for waivers or some sort of legal remedy of that nature, because what's been said has been exactly my observation, that if you're supportive and help those schools do that work, they can certainly see that the best practice and will join forces more or less.
Okay, so my concern, I guess, kind of lies back, going back to that SITS resource. Then, we're looking at this from a statewide perspective with the SITS option out there, and I'm concerned of it being a little bit of too many hands in the pot, and then one person or left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing in this case, or the right hand or the other right hand or the other right hand, and so on and so forth, because there's too many things going on into one central area. And I'm really concerned about us putting so much onto our teachers. I mean, it was amazing when I talked to the student representative that came in from the superintendent's council. And one of the things that just really blew me away was that if she had a question about her algebra problem, then she would just text her teacher, and within a few minutes the teacher would say, oh, well, try it this way, or look at it and flip it around, or try this particular point of view or formula. Not really giving the answer, but helping her with that. Now, that's one student out of one period in one class that this teacher has to deal with. And that is an on-call response 24/7 that this teacher's doing, and on top of that, we're asking them to come up with curriculum for their classroom while in this particular school, while all the other schools are reinventing the wheel. I just really think that we're putting a lot on our teachers when it comes to that. I mean, I do instructional design for my healthcare company that I work for, but we coordinate our services, and we have a centralized repository of knowledge that we pull from, so we're not constantly reinventing the wheel. I'm concerned that that's happening at more and more of an individual school level. So I'm just, I have to respond, but I'm just encouraged that we find this issue, because as you recall, when you interviewed me back, one of my chief complaints was that the curriculum isn't there. We're ready to go. The teachers are ready to go. We're all on board. We're all gung-ho for it. But daggone, that curriculum is just so slow in coming. And it's just, the teachers have enough on their plates right now, much less having to come with not only teaching it, but then coming up the content and the curriculum to teach the class.
Yeah. I mean, their wish was if there could be a concerted effort this summer and they could start the school year with curriculum placed by grade levels, that would be really welcomed. And I don't think they're going to fight you on the school-by-school battle. I think they're going to be happy if they could give them something coherent to work with.
And if you give them quality, and maybe you can take some of your expertise. I remember the interview, some of the expertise from the private sector around pulling and sharing that knowledge. That may be helpful as well, but somehow we have to start focusing the knowledge and sharing the knowledge so everybody isn't reinventing it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yeah, my questions are really toward the superintendent. I said my questions are more about how does this land in our lap and what our response is. For instance, in the report from GE, there's a quote, limited planning and teacher learning time is still a major concern as the work has ramped up over the past few years and the union contract makes this difficult to change. Can you explain that a little bit further, that comment?
Well, and I think what we're doing with the time that teachers have is, and I think this is exactly the point, is the ability to design instruction when you have the tools to pull from versus using the time to actually find the tools. What we need to do is focus teachers' expertise on designing instruction so that they're not doing multiple things and then they run out of time. So I think that's really related to that. And one of the things that I know Ann and Lawrence mentioned is working in professional learning communities is really where teachers are sharing expertise and sharing strategies, but you don't really want to start from square one. And I do want to actually commend the people that do work in developing the curriculum maps, and it is a work in progress. So it's not that that work isn't being done, but our teachers are certainly designing instruction for students with a myriad of needs. So the more that they can get and the more ways to teach the same concept, we need to actually figure out ways to do that better. And as Ann and Lawrence are saying, the answers are out there, but we also have to focus planning time on, rather than looking for resources, actually working with teachers to design instruction. And that might address what you're saying. And then I also heard Ann and Lawrence say professional development and wanting national experts, because at some point you hit a glass ceiling of what you know yourself. So you have to really reach out beyond what you know. So I think focusing the time and principals have been really strategic about finding time for teachers. I think we heard the SBDMs describe where they have one day a month where teachers are designing instruction and working on instruction. So that's part of I think why everybody feels overwhelmed.
I'd like to add or follow up on that, Dr. Hargens. The report also talked about the desire for educators to have the inside learning opportunities and more outside learning opportunities. And as we've seen in industry after industry, that involves a travel expense that is getting more and more difficult to swallow with pinching budgets. Is the district, are we involved in trying to find professional development opportunities that are digitally available? Are some alternatives to just traveling outside, but bringing in a national speaker? So
that's what
that was our suggestion.
Our suggestion was to bring the experts to you, not send our people out. That's way too expensive. Bring a national level expert to Louisville.
And what you'll see is actually Dr. Hensley working with schools to start to do that, where, for instance, Rick and Becky DeFore, rather than sending a team of teachers to go hear Rick and Becky DeFore, we bring Rick and Becky DeFore here. We have over 6,000 teachers, so lots more people can benefit, and it is more cost effective. And as we're, for the first time ever, I think, Skyping our presenters for the board meeting in, and it's being very effective. There are also ways to Skype experts in, I think, or video conference.
Thank you.
Just briefly, I have a few comments to make. First of all, thank you to GE. Thank you for being here with us this number of years. There was a statement in the evaluation that says the district is better because of GE, and it certainly is. So we thank you for that opportunity for our students and for our staff. And I think we have mentioned this already, but we are talking about one of the things you mentioned was how does the district manage adult motivation? I think that was one of the things that was in the report. So I think as a board member, I would put that question to the superintendent and staff to bring to the board what we're going to do in order to move forward to provide some of the things that we have mentioned tonight, and also to comment that Jefferson County, Kentucky was the first to have the high level of commitment to the Common Core. So we stepped out ahead of the pack. I can remember being at the conferences and people kind of looked at us like, okay, so you've got it. But then after we had it, then people were coming to us asking for advice, comments, and support. So thank you for all that you have done for the students, the children, the staff, and for Jefferson County. I do believe that the district is better because of GE. So thank you so much. Are there any other questions or comments? Any other remarks? Sabine? No. Mr. Jones?
So I want to propose a different take on this. Most of the comments from my colleagues, and if I understand the report, there's a lot of push for a centralized answer, and I hear that, and I also it makes total sense that every teacher dealing with it alone makes no sense. But has anybody worked on a grassroots wiki kind of an approach to this? It seems ludicrous that Kentucky would answer this, would figure this out, or that Jefferson County would figure it out, and every other district in America would figure out, how to comply with the standards for fourth grade, math, and every other thing. Is there any kind of a project underway to have a tool that lets curated, qualifying pieces of curriculum be put together and organized so that all teachers can have access to them.
And there are national websites, certainly, but I would say Kentucky with SITS is supposed to be this warehouse of items, aligned items, and videos that really align with the work. So that really is Kentucky's answer.
But SIS is a firewall, centralized, hard to get at thing, isn't it?
No, teachers can go on and see our curriculum maps. In fact, are being loaded there, and so there are different lessons and actually videos with PD and different teachers talking about how to teach particular standards. So it really is that warehouse of what works and pulling in things nationally too. I agree that you don't have to have the answer in Kentucky. The whole point of the Common Core was to be able to take the nation, and that's what GE really has been pulling together. The foundation is districts throughout the nation solving the same problems. So that is actually, and one of the things we can do for the board is do a demonstration of that, maybe at a work session so that you can see what that looks like, and our curriculum people can do that.
And along those same note, I think it would be really beneficial, and Ann and Lawrence, and maybe you would agree, is if we did a demonstration, and if you haven't already seen our curriculum maps as well, and see what they offer and what they house and what they don't, and maybe possibly make your suggestions as well, because I do think that our teachers benefit from our curriculum maps and what they offer and how they are aligned to the standards. They start with the standards, and yes, we do want to start with the students' needs and what they start with, but we also want to start with those standards.
So I'm interested in that, but I think what we're hearing loud and clear from the teachers is all of that is going too slow.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Is there a GE comment on, is there any kind of national movement going on?
Everyone we speak to in the 6 or 7 different districts that we work with would say the same thing. Yeah. Things are coming just too slow. But your point is a good one, and I think Dr. Hargan's addressed it. We are trying to warehouse and bring together the best ideas and to share them in a technological way so that more people can get access to them. New York City was a perfect example, and I think Jefferson County has done a really admirable job in pulling together great resources that teachers are using in the classroom. It's just that we just have to continue to do it. And everybody is asking for the materials everywhere we go. They're asking for more time for professional development. They're asking for more curriculum, more resources, and it's similar in Jefferson County. Everybody is struggling with the same issues.
Thank you. If there are no more comments, is there a motion to receive the GE report? Ms. Westland, second. Mr. Hadaway, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us tonight. This has worked very well, so thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Lawrence from Halifax.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, it has come to my attention that we have a lot of anxious people in this room at this time waiting for the announcement, and we also have some people outside. So Mr. Jones is going to make a motion to the motion because I think it's unfair to have the people continue to wait.
Yeah, I wish I could say I made it for dramatic effect, but I forgot to include one piece of the motion, which was after this first report, we would hear the superintendent's report and then go on to the other piece that I moved.
And I know there's some people outside that may need to come in, but we do have a speaker on the District of Innovation, Mr. Moffitt. If you will come forward for your 3 minutes, please, and then from that we will go directly to Dr. Hargan's report. Thank you for understanding, and we're trying to be customer friendly because we've got lots of customers in the room tonight. So thank you. Mr. Moffitt. 3 minutes, after 2.5 minutes, you'll hear the bell. When you get to 3 minutes, you'll hear the bell twice. Thank you, Mr. Moffitt, for being here tonight.
Thank you. I know everybody wants to hear the announcement, not me, but I just want to say it's a wonderful, I was blown away by the 12 semifinalists. I don't know how you're going to pick out of them. And so and I have friends that were involved in several of them. But what I'm going to do for just a couple minutes is tell you what I would do. You need to pick the one or the combination of them that clearly sets forth to deal with our persistent problem. The problem that we keep talking about. The problem that is called various things, failing schools. The problem that is called lack of equity. I would say those two things, and I would say in Jefferson County, if you look for them, you find them sort of geographically located, in spite of 50 years or 40 years of busing. Busing has accomplished some things, but it has not, by itself, changed what happens in the classroom. And we've got to change that. And we've got to start. I think you need to pick something that addresses that very clearly, something that addresses it at the beginning. We can't change this at the top. It has to start with the early years of these children. And then it will help the future years. And you have to pick a project or projects that you believe will not be just a showcase, a one-time thing, but something that will change Jefferson County, practically every school in Jefferson County, because we will find something that works that we've been looking for. And all of these stress some things like getting the students to take charge of their own learning. How do you do it? I don't know, but it has to be done. And finding that motivation in the students and in the classroom that solves behavior problems before they start. That doesn't rely on the fear of punishment, but relies on the taste of success. So, and then when you find one or two and you show us that they really make significant, like that chart, there was a chart in one of them that showed a dramatic jump from the 2nd to the 4th grade. When you show us that in this school of innovation or these schools of innovation, this community will come behind you and support you and provide the resources that will make it possible for every school in Jefferson County to do that. And it's a daunting task, but let's go at it.
Thank you, Mr. Moffitt.
Moving it back up, yes, you should.
There was a motion by Board Member Jones to move the superintendent's report up. So we second, Ms. Duncan. Everyone that's in favor of that? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Dr. Hargens, the superintendent's report. I hope everyone is inside that needs to be inside. And thank you for waiting with us. This is exciting. We were talking about how we were going to have a drum roll or a rose or whatever. We're not getting to that. We're just going to get to the superintendent's report. So thank you.
Now, the moment many of you have been waiting for, the announcement of our School of Innovation Design Competition finalists. First, though, I want to thank and congratulate the 12 semifinalist teams for your truly innovative concepts, your excellent presentations on Friday, and your dedication to our students and to this community. Your ideas stood out in a very competitive field of 45 applications from teachers, educational administrators, business leaders, community organizations, and more. So if we have semifinalists in the room, would you please stand and let us recognize you? Though we will narrow the field to finalists tonight, know that teams have brought forth ideas that could impact JCPS schools and students for years to come. I also want to thank the team of district employees who have been the driving force behind this competition. In particular, Student Assignment Director Jonathan Lowe. Would you stand and let us recognize you? Their whatever-it-takes attitude have gotten us to this point. And of course, I want to thank the members of the Design Review Panel and Finalist Selection Committee. Thank you all for your hard work and commitment. Without further ado, I will direct your attention to a video to describe how we got to this point in our competition and to announce the finalists.
More suspense.
How would you engage students? How would you reach struggling students?
How would you create next generation learners?
How would your school ensure that we are college and career ready?
The School of Innovation Design Competition asked the big questions. Our community answered with passion and creativity.
Every single stakeholder group in the community had the chance to be involved, and the response was phenomenal.
This competition was exactly the kind of thing we hoped would happen when we passed the Districts of Innovation legislation. These teams fearlessly challenged standard educational models.
We all come with different needs.
Our goal at JCPS is to engage every single student.
We don't all learn the same.
So, creativity and innovation in the classroom are not luxuries, they are essentials.
The 48 applications were constructed upon a vast array of foundations like social justice, compassion, urban agriculture, technology, community engagement, college and career readiness, and project-based learning, just to name a few. The ideas were analyzed by a true cross-section of the community. Teachers, higher education administrators, business leaders, community organization members, parents, and others comprised the design review panel.
The applicants sought to redefine, rethink, and revitalize education. It was thrilling to explore the possibilities in the minds of the applicants, and I can't wait to see one of them brought to life.
Narrowing down the applications was extremely challenging, but what do you expect in Possibility City?
The design review panel selected 12 semi-finalists who presented their proposals in a public event on March 7th.
What I saw on that stage was a collection of people who want to move our community forward from possibility to prosperity. Our students can reshape the future of Louisville when we are all engaged.
District leaders have selected the finalists in the School of Innovation Design Competition, and they are the Catalpa School, Auburndale Elementary teacher Jessica Forst, Bick Elementary teachers Adrian Moore, Jennifer Nelson, and Abby Terranova. The Catalpa School begins with preschool through grade 5 and has the ability to grow to include grades 6 through 8, blending Waldorf-inspired learning with Kentucky core academic standards. Students will balance art, music, drama, movement, and experiences in nature to promote creativity and critical thinking. Academic lessons and content will be tailored to traditional times of day when students are most cognizant, and teachers will stay with the same group of students as they progress through the school's grade levels. The Louisville Reach Academy, Brandeis Elementary teacher Kristen Thomas, Klondike Lane Elementary teachers Amy Clifford, Caroline King, and Katie Taliaferro. This year-round school would serve students in kindergarten through 8th grade and would be a hub of services for students, guardians, and the community. The one site will include opportunities for medical and dental services, family therapy, government services, adult education, job shadowing, and family education workshops. Other features will include small class sizes, iPads for each student, and a fully operational greenhouse to promote health and entrepreneurial and educational opportunities. The Metro Museum Magnet School. Fraser History Museum Executive Director Dr. Madeline Burnside. JCPS Gold Clarity Coach Dr. Shalonda Gregory. Kentucky Science Center Executive Director Joanna Haas. Kentucky Science Center Director of Education and Experience Kim Hunter. And Fraser Museum Coordinator of School and Teacher Programs Megan Shaney. Students in grades K through 5 will experience Louisville's Museum Row. Students could walk to project partners where they would participate in theme-based projects using authentic objects, experiences, and resources. Signed letters of support have already arrived from a collection of community partners and museums. The Next Generation Community School. Southeastern High School Education Achievement Authority of Michigan teachers Kaylee Hart and Brendan Campbell. Dean of Instruction Ashley Oganowski. This high school will allow students to have flexible scheduling and learning environments, while giving students the opportunity to earn internships at local businesses, media outlets, and community services housed in the school building. Students will move to new topics and courses once they master the material, a combination of written, oral, and performance assessments that are aligned to the standards.
So congratulations to the Catawba School, the Louisville Reach Academy, the Metro Museum Magnet School, and the Next Generation Community School. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, these finalists will have several months to work with JCPS specialists and external experts to translate their concepts into action plans. The district will provide the resources to ensure that the final proposals come complete with a baseline budget, operational structure, curriculum alignment, and other components before the board sees them again in June. I also want to remind everyone that you can read descriptions of and full proposals from all 12 semifinalists on our School of Innovation webpage. You can also provide feedback with the survey found on that webpage. Answers to this survey may guide final revisions of the finalist proposals and help identify good ideas from the remaining proposals. That survey will be open until March 28th. I encourage you all to please stay involved. And congratulations once again to Catawba School, Louisville Reach Academy, Metro Museum Magnet, and the Next Generation Community School. Thank you.
Now, at this point, I really am going to say to folks who really want to leave and go celebrate, we'll take just a couple of minutes. Thank you for your patience. It took us a little while to get here, but congratulations to everyone, especially to what the good things that will happen with our district. Thank you so much. And I did see tears of happiness, so that's good.
That was interesting. That was good. You need to do that.
Might as well take advantage of the opportunity.
You better believe it. Okay, now we're on the. What'd you think about it? Wonderful.
I will.
I was going to ask you about the baseball because I'm not even sure I understand what they're doing.
It's reorganizing and they're putting new standards on some positions while eliminating others and rewriting the job description. I'm not quite sure. There seems to be some controversy about it, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with that.
Okay, we're back in session. We've taken a break for celebration, but now we're back in session. Thank you, everyone. The next item on our agenda is the update on the equity scorecard. Dr. Hargens.
Thank you very much. In November, staff members presented an equity scorecard to you, and what we did is we promised that we would give you an update. It has been over 100 days that the district has had the equity scorecard. And again, not new data, but data presented in a way that was understandable to the community and really has become a great catalyst for discussion. So Charles Davis and John Colopy will give you an update on what's happened in the first 100 days since the equity scorecard.
Good evening, Dr. Harkins, Chair Porter, and board members. A little over 100 days ago, as Dr. Harkins mentioned, on November 25th, Jefferson County Public Schools leaders joined community organizations, educators, parents, and business leaders to discuss the challenges of community and school district inequity. The Envision Equity Summit introduced participants to a presentation about how demographic factors correlate to student achievement and school culture. Participants also joined group discussions to share ideas for partnership or initiatives to address equity within the school district. To ensure that activities related to the Envision Equity Scorecard have a keen focus, the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty Programs has developed a set of next steps. Championed by Assistant Superintendent of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty Programs, John Marshall, this talk will provide an overview of the activities that have taken place as a result of the Envision Equity Summit and the Envision Equity Scorecard since the initial time together. All of our activities are, of course, aligned with the Vision 2015 strategic plan. So I'll just go through a few of our accomplishments over those first 100 or so days. Internal audits are being looked at to identify best practices within schools and district offices that may lend themselves to eradicating the systemic inequities revealed by the Vision Equity Scorecard. We're also conducting many summits around the Louisville community. They are designed to keep the community apprised of what efforts are taking place, while at the same time soliciting ideas and commitments on how organizations can utilize their resources to help improve equity. As part of the current JCPS Code of Conduct review, restorative practices are being looked at as potential options for faculty, staff, and administrators in dealing with behavioral challenges in our school buildings. In this work, of course, there will always be blind spots that avail themselves in missed opportunities for engagement. DEP has convened a set of role groups representing a variety of constituencies, including principals, assistant principals, teachers, parents, and external community members that provide external perspective on the impact of activities and actions related to the Envision Equity Scorecard. Unit coaches within DEP will begin walkthroughs in selected schools using the culture and climate and culturally responsive instruments to gain further perspective into the culture and climate in our schools. When developing professional development out of the DEP department, our staff has reviewed past training evaluations of attendees. There were 6 things that constantly rang true as things that teachers wanted to see. Those are connecting with families and increasing meaningful parent involvement, supporting students to live in poverty, understanding the relationship between culture and discipline, using culture of students in curriculum and lessons, supporting African American students, and lastly, supporting English language learners, students with disabilities, and immigrant or refugee students. To that end, DEP has developed a cadre training schedule that has intentionally been crafted to serve the needs and wants of educators and professionals within Jefferson County Public Schools. A new initiative is called the First Task to Ask. This campaign seeks to empower JCPS parents to become the best partners in education possible. This initiative provides parents and caregivers with pointed questions to ask teachers and administrators in order to help shape the best possible learning environment for our children. Lastly, the Section 7 equity allocation is an exciting development from the Envision Equity Scorecard. To talk more about the impact in the JCPS district, I will defer to Mr. John Colopy, Director of Financial Planning and Management for JCPS.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening. One of the ongoing tasks posed to the Equity Scorecard Committee was the pursuit of greater levels of equity in the allocation of resources within JCPS. As a result of this charge, the committee analyzed the method of school allocations and identified an opportunity to progress towards greater levels of intentionality, accountability, and equity. Specifically, the recommendation was made to insert a review process for Section 7 school plans in order to ensure Section 7 usages that would advance academic progress for all students. This objective was then turned over to the subcommittee for greater refinement. The members of the subcommittee are as follows: Karen Branham of Curriculum and Instruction, Charles Davis of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty Programs, Amy Green of Human Resources, Linda Hanley, Title I Director, Jonathan Lowe, Director of Student Assignment, Judy Vanderhaar of Planning and Evaluation Department, and myself. The product of this collaboration team is the result of the team is the Section 7 proposed change that was first presented to the board on January 13th work session. Specifically, Cordelia Harden discussed the distribution of the balance related to Kentucky administrative regulation regarding Section 7. That's KAR 702. That is defined as an equity allocation that targets at-risk students. The amount of the allocation is based on free and reduced student counts as well as the concentration of at-risk students. Additionally, Ms. Harden pointed out the following aspects regarding each school's Section 7 plan. The plan must be embedded in each school's CSIP. The schools would submit a plan for review, and then the plan would be reviewed by committee. The new year allocation standards were then submitted to the board and approved on January 27th. The principals were advised of the approved change the following day on January 28th. On February 3rd, the new year budget instructions were posted, and the change was reiterated in that document. Also on February 3rd, Finance posted the Section 7 forms for schools to submit their plans, the amount of Section 7 earmarked for each school, and also a Section 7 best practices information sheet that was provided to us by the Planning and Evaluation Department. The best practices sheet offers some scientifically proven strategies that schools could reference if they were looking for ways to use those funds. Our original deadline for schools to submit their plans was February 7th. However, for some schools, we've had to extend that deadline because of the snow days. Still, we will have all requests in before the subcommittee convenes to review these submissions on March 17th. Those school plans already received show fund usage primarily focused on literacy. One predominant strategy that we've seen so far is the usage of Section 7 to support reading recovery teachers. Typically, the schools are using that to partially fund those positions, combining with Title I or other funds in order to come up with an entire position. And we know that reading recovery teachers are one of those scientifically proven strategies. So they are using Section 7, Title I, and other possible funding to basically combine available resources in order to create a single cohesive program. And that's my update. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And what the Envision Equity Scorecard has really been able to do is to provide a really robust diagnosis to some of the inequities that we found in our district. And so through initiatives such as Section 7 and some of the other things that I've mentioned, we've been able to target interventions so that we're not casting a wide net, and we can maintain, again, that keen focus. Submitted in your board documents, you should have received a document that also provides access to supplementary materials that speak to the mini summits, the PLCs for culture and climate, the cadre professional development series, unit coach walkthrough, role groups, as well as restorative practices as they relate to the code of conduct review. With that, that is the formal, that concludes the formal portion of this presentation. We'll open up to questions.
Thank you. Ms. Westman, then Ms. Duncan.
Okay. Thank you. I've attended the equity report back in November, and I've attended to a Code of Conduct Committee meeting, so I'm getting pieces of kind of some of the actions that are going on. But I haven't really thought about until I listened to kind of maybe rethinking about budget and requiring schools to have plans on how to address inequities. And I just want to point out, and you probably, unless you have a comment or an answer, you may not have one. A lot of you said you're going to look at concentrations of poverty in schools, free and reduced lunch status for targeting.
The allocation is based upon, the dollar amount is based upon the concentration of at-risk students and how many at-risk students are in the building.
Right. Well, and often that ends up being, you'll have schools like some in my area that don't typically get Title I money or extra money to deal with students that have special needs or because the concentration isn't high enough. But I just want to point out there are often the biggest gaps in those schools and need for resources to address high needs students, right? So are you looking at that, or are my, you know, I know Title I money goes to schools with a certain level of free and reduced lunch. Is that how you're looking at this?
One of the realities, one of the truths of the equity scorecard in general was that the concentration of at-risk students impacts achievement. There's no way of looking at the data any other way. It was the main source of focus as we moved through that process. And while we do acknowledge that those schools with lower concentration do have challenges with their at-risk students, the reality is, Ms. Westland, that the greatest challenges, even across the district, even for those schools that receive Title I, is still additional resources. I've never bought into the idea that because a school receives Title I, that should be sufficient. I'm not convinced of that. Did I answer your question?
Oh, maybe a little bit. I think the answer, what you're saying is having Title I money is that's no perfect solution. There's more to it than that. I'm pointing out that there are schools that don't get any Title I money, and that's the only measure right now I can think of, but still have kids who have that still have equity issues, right? So I just want to point out that we don't forget them. You know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ms. Duncan?
I just want to be assured that in the schools that apply for these will eventually get this money that's guaranteed really supposed to be going to them. That we'll just keep changing. We'll just keep having them work on the plan until it comes up to be something that we want and that will work. But there's no withholding of that.
Yes, Ms. Duncan. In fact, we have really fine-tuned the approach to that. And the instructions that I've been given, it makes perfectly good sense to me, is if there's an issue with a particular submission, that we work through the assistant superintendents in charge of that particular achievement area to really get something, and sometimes it may be just asking additional questions, but to really fine-tune if there's an absolute need to work through those administrators to make sure that we get to the point that exactly as you've explained, that eventually those schools would get their funding.
And to piggyback on John's point, it's really not a gotcha kind of situation. schools were provided with a list of resources to kind of target the kind of things that we're looking for and the kind of things that can potentially help their schools. So it's not just a shot in the dark. It's really kind of helping them target towards those literacy goals and things of that nature.
From the beginning, I wish we would have named this something other than equity and talk about inequities, because so many things are disparities. They're differences. They're as a result of populations. They're not where we're doing things to people that are hurting them. That's not, that to me, that's an inequity. We have areas of inequity. I think we need to always keep in mind what our uniform dress guidelines and how that sometimes appears inequitable and how we implement that. I think sometimes students who participate in athletic events who have different demands on their time, we see inequities happening there as a result of how it's all structured. So those become kind of inequities, but some of these other things to me are disparities, and that we have to address them. But a couple of things I wanted to ask about. When you talk about mental health here, and when we know that mental health services, mental health support will help improve attendance and help reduce suspensions and help overall, we'll see an improvement in achievement. What is the district doing to make sure that mental health is funded in all of these schools? Because I see youth services centers, raising money to help pay for counselor or for different mental health organizations to come in and give their kids support. So what are we doing when we know that's and that's what was in this report, when we know that has such an impact in our highly at-risk populations? What are we doing?
Well, and their job actually was to tell you what's happened in the next 100 days. I guess what I'll say is what could happen in yet the next 100 days, because what you're talking about is the budget proposal, and what we've recognized that there are students with therapeutic needs, and that we have lots of students with those needs. So really what staff is looking at is repurposing dollars to provide for more therapeutic needs. But so that's more to come. I guess what these gentlemen are trying to do is just tell you what's happened in this first 100 days, but the budget process is going to uncover some of those repurposing of funds to address those needs.
Okay, well, when you made the reference to even culturally responsive instruments, that we're going to use culturally responsive instruments to go in the classroom, what will those instruments reveal when you go in? What are you wanting those instruments to reveal when we're talking about this issue of equity?
What they're doing is looking at culture and climate within schools, and so they've been developed and I believe approved throughout the district for usage. So it's just another, again, looking from an outside eye. Sometimes we all, like I said, have blind spots, which is even with this process, we have external individuals that we can bounce ideas off of. None of this work, again, is a gotcha moment. We're not trying to beat up on schools. We're not trying to beat up on teachers. We all know what it takes to for administrators and teachers who walk through those doors every day. What we're trying to do is just to provide help. So if there's something that we've seen, it relates to dealing with diverse populations, or our international population, or our refugee or our immigrant populations, or our homeless populations, we can just kind of provide and say, hey, here's something that we noticed. How can we work together to make this a good situation for all of our students who walk through the door every day?
Okay, so you really don't have particular things that you're going to be measuring when you go in, or that you're going to be looking for. It's just when you run into something that...
There's an instrument that we use, and I can provide that to the board.
And actually, it's on the handout, isn't it, Mr. Davis? So on the handout, when you click on the live link of walkthroughs, it actually gives you a walkthrough instrument, and I just pulled it up. So all students have opportunities to respond.
Very good.
So when you go into a classroom and you see equal access to the opportunity to respond, then whoever walkthrough is a feedback instrument, would give the feedback that in fact there are opportunities to respond for all students, that it's not just for some students. So when you go on the handout,
it's pulling up on that.
Right. So you go on the handout and you click on walkthroughs. So can you, I don't know who's running.
At the bottom of the handout, green.
Kathy, are you running this?
Posted on the portal?
Yes. So if you go, can you go back to where the handout is, Kathy? Okay, so you see the two handouts, that's what you had in your backup materials. And then you go to walkthroughs, and if you click on the live link, the link of walkthroughs, it will take you to instruments like that.
Very good. That's what I would just like to see what's
Students are
included
using
in it.
technology.
That's culturally responsive when you using technology. One other question. You've mentioned restorative practices more than one time. And, you know, we have a program going right now with the courts, and we approved it a couple years ago for 10-year-olds. Do we have any evidence from that experiment, really? I mean, it's what it was a conditional kind of thing. I think we were trying to see if restorative practices would work in the courts. Do you have any data coming from those experiences with the courts that show that restorative practices reduce repeat offenders or offenses from those offenders?
I do not at this point, but I will definitely research that and get back to you.
I would appreciate that if we could see, because we talk restorative practice, but we need to see what evidence is behind it that's showing that it's effective in terms of discouraging repeat behaviors. I think we all would appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Jones and then Mr. Brady.
This is just a request for follow-up and also some feedback. As a still relatively new board member, I'm going to be real candid and say I could hardly understand a word either one of you were saying. There's a lot of technical information in here. There's a lot of reference to organizational structures and funding sources, and most of them I've heard of, but I just can't keep up. So the first request is, could you please post both of your of your remarks on the board portal? And second, it would have been very helpful to me to get that ahead of time or to have a little bit more of a presentation. I also could not follow the presentation. It looks like there's a bunch of good links in here to stuff, but I just couldn't navigate it as I tried to prepare for the meeting. Again, a lot of this stuff is fairly new. I've spent a good bit of time on the scorecard, but it would just be helpful to have a little bit more opportunity to prepare. All right, thank you.
Mr. Brady.
I'm going to echo my colleagues' comments on that to a degree, especially with the items that were posted onto the portal. I'm glad that we do have these items posted to the portal, but there was nothing in this particular PDF that actually gave me the slightest indication that these blue underlines were actually live links. There are items that are underlined in green, and honestly, I didn't know that was a live link. I thought it was just a regular PDF file because that's the way it's posted. And generally, we don't have active links within our PDFs. And had I known about that, and I think if Board Member Jones had known about that, then we would have been not so surprised to see a scorecard that we didn't know it was actually a live link. So, and this has really kind of more to do with an inconsistency in the way data and items are posted as a resource. But this does follow up with my previous comments from the past meetings of let's make sure that we present information that it's done so in a manner that we at least understand that there's live links here, or that we know that there's more information here. I mean, it's just I had no idea that this was an interactive PDF document. I just thought it was just a static PDF like most of all the other PDFs that we have posted on the portal.
And let me just follow up. My point is not to criticize the presentation, but when I'm coming to the board meeting, and this is really for all of the administrators, not just the two of you who are up here, it's not my intention to come in and just tell you what's on my mind and what I think and believe before I got here. I want to understand what you're doing and be able to ask you questions about how it relates to the strategy. So the opportunity to prepare ahead of time is really helpful, especially in areas where the funding streams are complicated or the pedagogy is, the majority of us are not professional educators up here. So that's really all I'm asking for. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Other comments? I wanted to briefly talk about the PLC rounds. I see that that's one of the things that's listed on here, and the opportunity that we as a board have had. I know last meeting Ms. Haddad said that she had attended one as well. I've had an opportunity to go to Brandeis, Englehart, and Zeke. They're very focused on student learning, and one of the things that I think that is important about it is that we know that we cannot educate the students of Jefferson County by ourselves. And what we see is we see members of the community coming in to participate. And when I see some community members coming to more than one, it means to me that they do care about the message that we're trying to send. And I think it's an engaging opportunity to bring more people on board as we try to move forward for the good of the students of the district. So I thank you for that. Thank you for the report. I think that everyone has noted the recommendations that you have made tonight, and if additional information needs to get back to the board members, then we will take care of that. Are there any other questions? Is there a motion to receive the report? Ms. Duncan, second. Mr. Jones, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, now I think we're actually going back to the I'm trying to keep up with the agenda. No, I want you to calm down, calm down. I think the next order of business is we do have a tie bid. Right? We do have a tie bid.
Okay, let's see if you improved your skill.
I'm more than that. I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, it started there.
There you go. Hey.
Yeah, I forgot to read it. I'm sorry. So this tie bid is item number 19 on bid ID 6874 for locally grown fresh fruits and vegetables. And the winning bidder is Courtney Farms, LLC.
Thank you very much. Now, Dr. Hargens, we'll go back to you for any other comments before we ask about the consent calendar.
Okay.
Dr. Hargens.
All right. Chair Porter, members of the board, it's my pleasure to call a couple of other things to your attention. What I would like to say about the consent agenda is just to be clear that we've removed item 5V, the graduation dates. Those are typically set in March, but because of the pending legislation, we'd like to bring those to you back at the second meeting of March to be absolutely sure so that we can give certainty to families about graduation dates. Also, before I forget, exclude number 77 on personnel reports. If I had to give a theme for tonight, it's definitely about how we use data and feedback to inform and to fuel continuous improvement in the district. I certainly would like to congratulate this community for the designation of being a Ford Next Generation Learning Community. That is huge, and we had a press conference that officially announced that, but the recognition that we did is huge, and the 90 community members that included teachers and staff that worked on that Ford master plan and really achieved the bar of receiving that designation is really a big deal. And I want to thank the SBDM councils who in the work session described how data informs their decision making at the school level to focus on student achievement. The GE Foundation review coming to us from Halifax, Nova Scotia, no less, provided us with feedback. And I want to thank Andy Pate, who was the person who made that all happen, because sometimes things don't happen as they should. Andy, perfect. Thank you very much. So they provided us with feedback that affirmed our commitment to the progress made in implementing the Common Core standards, and made recommendations about how to build capacity as we stay the course with this important work. I want to reiterate again that we're better because of GE, and when you think of the work that we've done, year one was strategy, year two was structure. Putting goal clarity coaches in schools was because of GE staff developers. It was that model that then was replicated in every school. So the footprints of the legacy of the work with GE is really, really important. So now it's really about action, which is building capacity in every staff member. Clearly, the superintendent always learning, every administrator always learning, every teacher always learning, so that we can be the best that we can for students. And I don't want to lose the point of the Envision Equity Scorecard just update was really to talk about that data informs action, and that presenting data in a way that gets community to talk about it and to be a catalyst for action was really the point of the presentation that they did. And I think what overall we can see is that we are being very, very intentional about the work that we're done. And I think Ann and Lawrence talked about that. But I want to mention a couple of things that really talk about strategy and action. On the screen, David Johns presented at the Louisville Urban League's 2014 Education Summit. And David John works with the president with the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans. And really, there are 3 quotes. You know how you remember what people say is, he said, "We need to help students imagine a space they do not occupy now." We need to help students imagine a space they do not occupy now. And you are obligated to live your life in service to other people. And teaching isn't rocket science. It is harder than rocket science. So I want to commend all the teachers who are on this journey of implementing the Common Core. So David Johns really gets Louisville. And let me give you a couple of examples more of strategy and action. I got this wonderful pleasure to attend the Louisville game on Saturday with 4 outstanding young men from Central High School, and you can see their names listed there with their mentors from the 100 Black Men Mentors. And it was fun, I'm sorry you can't see it better, to watch them enjoying the game. And they had the opportunity to sit with Will James, who is the president of Toyota, who actually mentored them during the game and talked about making fabulous or what they could be. Remember, we need to help students imagine a space they do not occupy now. So it was wonderful to see these 4 young men in a space that they may have never occupied before. So the other thing today that we saw was the annual Men of Quality from Omega Psi Phi Lifestyle Choices Forum. It was held today at the University of Louisville. Students from 26 schools attended the forum, which targets African American males in 6th through 12th grade. Presenters used the theme of "Now is the time" to teach men that the choices they make each day will affect their lives and will help them become the person they will become. So the room was full, hundreds of young men who are getting mentored by outstanding role models in the community. Again, I go back to, we need to help students imagine a space they do not occupy now. And I can't say enough about the School of Innovation, and congratulations to the finalists. That was the most exciting Friday night that I've had in Louisville, is watching people talk about learning and be excited about learning and tweet away about learning and how we can together improve achievement in Jefferson County. And I've been given a note that says, please clarify that number 77 is on page 10 of the personnel report, the one that we're actually pulling. So Chair Porter, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Hargens. Are there items that need to be pulled down on the consent calendar for more explanation? Ms. Westland?
I don't have more explanation, but I was going to pull down P for one little comment.
Are there any other items? Okay, we'll go with P. That's the approval of the Memorandum of Agreement with Junior Achievement of Kentuckiana, Inc.
Yes. I just want to thank the people here from Junior Achievement who've been here almost 2 hours simply to watch their Memorandum of Agreement get approved.
Junior Achievement's a great partner, and we provide a lot of experiences for all our students, and we appreciate you, and we won't make you do this again. But we're glad you're here, and I just wanted everybody that's still here to know you've been here, and you're a partner on the front row still. Thank you.
I wanted to comment on that item too.
Ms. Duncan?
One of the things that we have in our CDIP is that we are concerned about and we want to support the development of the whole child. And sometimes I feel like, just like with the Junior Achievement Program, I feel like we kind of force programs into always producing results, test score results. And I know it said there, it was presented as if the Junior Achievement experience improves math and social studies and writing skills. It might, but it's a 4-week program or a 4-week curriculum that gets kids ready to go in and run the business. But to me, the value is not necessarily in the test score. It's in that whole child experience that they get when they have that sense of running a business, of learning about what business is, of being excited about that, and maybe inspiring them to think in that direction. So I hope we don't think we have to always say these programs cause improved scores, because there are so many other benefits to these programs, and Junior Achievement is one. I'm amazed at the programs that we have and how excited the kids are about them. So thank you all for that work.
Ms. Haddad?
Yeah. If you haven't experienced Junior Achievement, you need to, especially with kids, because that's really where the action is. So I was very fortunate to go down there with one of the schools and saw it in action. And my one grandson was very involved with it. And it was really a good leadership training for him. He got to be mayor for a day, and that really meant a lot to him in the 4th grade. And it's important that you see the impact it has on kids. Like Linda said, it's not just the test scores. It's just getting them in there in the social, and they see the importance of positions. You know, one kid got a ticket for walking on the grass. He just thought that was the worst thing that ever happened to him. But it was, and you know, he had to go before the judge, and then the mayor had to make some rules, and the kids didn't like the mayor's rules. And it put them in real life experiences that they don't get in the classroom sometimes. So it is really great, and I hope all of y'all will take the opportunity to go down there and visit while the kids are there, because it's not fun when they're not there, because they just have such a different perspective, and it's so normal. So, you know, we think so up here, and it's real to them down there. So thank you all for the wonderful job. That's one of the best partnerships we started with Junior Achievement down there, because it's been wonderful for all our kids. Thank you.
Mr. Hathaway?
Yeah, I want to echo the applause as well. My 5th grade twins were able to go down to Junior Achievement, and my son was one of those who got several tickets for walking on the grass. And his twin sister loved that. His twin sister had the fun of enacting and being a meteorologist. So now she caught vision about that, and now her whole room has maps, and she will do a report for us about weekly of what's going to happen with the weather and everything. So thank you very much as a parent.
And I know my grandson is getting ready to go March 28th, and he's got his own TV studio at home, so I look for him to be right in there in the middle of that one that's there. But it's just a great program.
We need some weather advice.
Mr. Brady?
Just one point of request, actually, if board members Hathaway's daughter would let us know what the weather is going to do, we would really appreciate that. So, thank you.
By 5 o'clock each morning.
I'd just like to quickly thank Junior Achievement for taking a chance on JCPS and going into a building that was nothing, just a shell of a building, and having the vision to put what is there now and the opportunities that you have provided for, I have no idea how many children that have been through there, but you open the doors for anybody that needs to come. You've opened it for the board, so we thank you for that. I was there with the Bingham Fellows, You welcomed us to your building for that, but taking a chance on a facility that was there that was absolutely nothing, and no one would ever realize the growth and the vision that you put into that for the good of the students of the Jefferson County Public Schools. So we thank you very much for that. Any other comments? Okay, that was a long way to thank you, and but we mean every word that we've said. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar, please? Mr. Brady, second. Ms. Haddad, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much for being here tonight. There are no action items. We've done our 2 discussion items, and we will move on to the board agenda planning calendar, and we also have some speakers. So is there anything for the 2013-14 discussion agenda planning calendar? Any changes, Mr. Jones?
Dr. Harkins, do you want to give us a heads up about what's coming 2 weeks from now?
And actually, I would like to do that. We actually have 6 more meetings in the 13-14 school year. And actually, each meeting will be almost as exciting as this one. So March 24th is the Magnet School Review. Remember, we had the Magnet reviewers come in. They will bring and present information about what they found. Along with that is an alternative school status and recommendation to give you information about our alternative schools. So then jump forward to April 21st, the technology plan, an update on bandwidth. And that's when we'll bring back the technology reorg, and then comprehensive facilities usage proposal. Then if you go into May 27th, that's the tentative budget. That's where you'll see some of this feedback come alive in actual recommendations that will be included in the budget. And then in June, not only will the Code of Conduct and Acceptable Behavior be brought back, but we're also going to give you an update on the joint education commitment with Louisville Metro Council. So kind of close the year with what is the work that we've done with Metro government together. And then June 23rd will be the approval of the Strategic Facilities Usage Plan, but that meeting, June 23rd, is when those finalists will bring back their vetted proposals with details and action plans to you, the board, where then you become the panel in deciding which one moves forward, which one or ones move forward for going to the showcase then in the fall of the next year and being implemented. So that's a lot for the next 6 meetings, but all of those things come together. Magnet review, facilities review, along with alternative school review, along with the code of conduct, and also the budget. So that will be a busy next 6 meetings.
Mr. Brady?
One question about that calendar. I was just curious to know, one thing we had taken off a consideration, the deciding when we're going to be holding graduation. I'd like to know if the superintendent has an idea of when that will be coming up, and whether it'll be our next meeting or the meeting after that. I know we're kind of in flux, kind of waiting on what happens in Frankfurt,
right,
but just trying to get an idea so the public knows, because I know that there was some concern about that for tonight's meeting. Secondly, you also mentioned the facilities plan, and I was curious to know at what point this board might be deciding whether or not we're going to move forward with plans for the property in the northeast part of the county with the Y in Norton Commons. So I'd just like to have an idea of when those 2 items might be coming up on our calendar.
Sure. And if I didn't say that, I meant to say that at the second meeting in March, which would be March 24th, we're going to bring you graduation dates. Okay. There are 3 weeks left in the legislative session, so so we hope that there's movement regarding that. And again, our time frame to families has always been March. It'll be a little bit later in March, but we want to guarantee people March 23rd. And then approval of strategic facilities usage plan, which would include what you just talked about, would be June 23rd.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But that's the approval, the proposal on facilities is coming in April.
Yes, that's right.
And we have time to analyze it.
That's correct, Ms. Wesleyan. Yep. Thank you for clarifying.
I just want to make sure that we're actually know when we're going to be voting on it.
That's right.
Yeah, I know you know.
Is there a motion to receive the planning calendar? Mr. Jones, second. Mr. Brady, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Board reports and requests. Mr. Brady.
Okay, so not to blow our time here, but I do have a few things I want to discuss here. So just,
But not to blow our time here.
well,
You prefaced that.
I'm just saying get comfortable. So there's a couple things I just want to bring up. First of all, if you haven't had a chance, there's a really fascinating article, and last, I guess, week before this current issue of Time Magazine, it talks about, it's called Code Red, and it talks about the technology team that took kind of attacked the issues that were going on with the Affordable Care Act website. And the reason I bring this up is because when reading this article, it occurred to me, and it kind of hit me that a lot of the issues and the things they talk about were applicable to JCPS. And what I mean by that is specifically what I kind of wanted to see in the comprehensive IT plan that we had just talked about. That was originally going to come up in February, but it looks like now it's going to be coming up in April. And what I specifically want to talk about is that we have a plan that addresses not just, okay, we have this many people in our IT department and we have this many people over in our schools. I want to make sure that we're understanding, and then we understand that when at least what I would like to see as this board member, would like to see something that talks about what our plan is for using technology in the classroom, what our plan is as to whether or not we're going to be, that decision is going to be made in SBDM or district level. I think from the day's work session earlier today at 5 o'clock that we found that some of these schools are what I view as operating in a vacuum of sorts because they are making technology decisions based on subcommittees that may or may not have the expertise to really understand what's going on or available in technology. So, and they're making these decisions, as I said, by themselves, not necessarily in cooperation or consultation with the district and the IT staff at our district. So we don't know what's going to happen from a support level. We don't know what's going to happen from an integration level. We don't know what's going to happen from one kid. If they get transferred, if they go to a different school, then they're going to have to learn an entirely different new OS or new device, and how those items are going to be really addressed by that kid. So there's those questions. There's what will professional development for our teachers look like? We have computer PLCs that will be implemented or actually utilized. What's our access for broadband access and bandwidth for those sites that don't qualify for E-rate? What's our plan for using cloud technologies? We already use Infinite Campus. We already use the Munis system, but there are some security issues that could be at play for some of our other systems. What's our plan for our own JCPS website? And in particular, what is are we looking at redesigning the website? Are we looking at doing some better functionality? It's things like that, and if we are doing that, then I'd like to see what our plan is, or do we have a plan for being able to approach that? What's our IT security and privacy plan? Do we have a notification policy in case there is a data breach? And I bring that up because in another magazine I just read, which is the Kentucky School Board Advocate, put out by KSBA, there is an article in here called "Cloudy with a Chance of Data Breach," and it talks about IT security on the cloud, and in particular, whether or not some of these cloud-based services are following FERPA or some of the other privacy standards, and then whether or not these systems are actually encrypted. And another reason why I bring this up is because the state auditor has a bill before the State House and Senate, House Bill 5, which deals with cybersecurity. And one of the things it deals with is whether or not how to notify or requires notification to law enforcement in the event of a data breach, and then how to notify the users that their data has been breached and their private information has been hacked. To me, it's not a question of if we get hacked, it's a question of when we get hacked. We've already seen issues within the last year of denial of service attacks on some parts of our network. We're going to see more and more of that. So it's an issue that I'd like us to be able to get out in front of as a district. There's some political issues that seem to be holding this particular bill up in Frankfurt. It's unfortunate because I think it is good legislation. I don't necessarily like the perhaps unfunded mandate part of this, but I think there's some good standards that need to be set, and I think it's incumbent upon us as a district to make sure we have good, firm policies in place and that we spell that out. We might have those policies in place, I don't know, but I would like to see that as part of our comprehensive IT plan when it comes before us on the 12th. And one last little bit about this, which is not related to the IT stuff that I'm concerned about, but is related to this magazine, is in the fact on the back here, there's this really nice picture of Linda Duncan and Congressman Yarmouth advocating, and I'm sure Board Member Westland is just to the side of Linda Duncan, so just out of frame, but I just wanted to call that out and say we appreciate their advocacy on our part and taking time out of their busy schedules to go to D.C. and try and advocate, not just for this school district, but for others as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Others, Ms. Duncan?
Well, I had the one request concerning that. I've always wanted to follow up on that restorative practice information, that data. So if we have access to that, and I think it applies to our 10-year-olds who are involved in court situations. So I would like to see that. And also, we approved tonight our energy management agreement, and I think I would mention in this agreement that we would be committed to having student energy teams in the buildings. So I would just love to see when we get a plan for how we're going to implement that. I'd love to see that and see, because I've been an advocate for that for the last 2 years, as Jefferson County having schools that have their energy, their green teams. Right now, Hazelwood Elementary is the only one that I am familiar with that has a green team and shirts and everything to help monitor their use of energy and help save energy. But those are two requests. And then tonight I wanted to give you these little treats. This is for the Great American Smokeout. Yes, it's for the Great American Smokeout. This is your smoke withdrawal kit. I guess that's what it is. This was coming to you from the director of our Alcohol and Drug-Free Grant, Dodie Huff Fletcher. Met with her this morning at the neighborhood place, South Jefferson neighborhood place. And so anyway, this is your. Yes, that's part of it. All of it is from Dodie and the grant. Right. And I had been to several schools this past week that I wanted to name a couple of places. I took part in Rutherford Elementary's Read Across America program, and went in and got to read to the second grade class, and I love those days because I get to pretend I'm a teacher again in there. And these little second graders were so good and so attentive, and I enjoyed it just so much. And then PRP, we went with Dr. Hargens and Mr. Hadaway to the dedication of the Performing Arts Center there, and that was quite exciting. Beautiful facility, and I'm sure it will inspire many, many kids in Southwest Jefferson County. And finally, I know I'm wearing a Simple shirt, but they put the name on the back so nobody can see. This is from Simple Elementary, and I wanted to let everybody know that I was wearing that in support of that school and the great programs that they have going on there. And let me see, there was one more on here. Oh, yes, I was going to just mention that I know I have a community conversation coming up Thursday night, and some of the rest of you have community conversations, so we hope people will come out and enjoy this. They really threw a kind of a surprise on me, though. They are going to have their athletic awards the same night as my community conversation, right before my conversation. So I should have a pretty good turnout. I bet I'll beat all of you on this one.
Ms. Duncan, do you want to tell us your school for Thursday for your community conversation and your time?
Oh, yes. I'm at Hazelwood Elementary.
Okay.
And the Friskies coordinator and at Darnell has made all these arrangements to welcome that.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Hadaway, did you have something?
Yeah, I too want to thank you for bringing that up and sharing the invite. I have a community conversation tomorrow night, 6 p.m. at Dixie Elementary, and I want to congratulate the Pleasure Ridge Park community as well. And the dedication we had Friday and thank the mayor for being there and Congressman Yarmouth, along with council members Fowler, Welch, and Blackwell. I think I mentioned them all. It was a great celebration for PRP, and it is a fantastic facility, and I understand that their first run, Cinderella, went over very well for the weekend.
Okay, while we're doing community conversations, I have one on March the 18th at the Academy at Shawnee at 6 o'clock. This is a public service announcement for all of us about our community conversations. I also wanted to say that I participated in the Read Across America at Roosevelt Perry last Friday, and to follow up on the comments that Dr. Hargens made about the Men Equality Lifestyle Choices Forum today. There were 656 young men at the University of Louisville. That program has been in existence for 18 years, and it is a program that has sustained itself for 18 years. Today we had 656 young men, middle and high school students, and I wanted to thank all of the staff. The cabinet was there with Dr. Hargens. There were our area superintendents and ETCs there, so it was very impressive for everyone to take the time this morning to stop by for that. I left the University of Louisville and went to Shepherd Square this morning, and it's important to say that they had their grand opening. The residents of Shepherd Square have been out for a long time, but housing is back there today, and I had the honor of being with Chris Berber and 4 students from Mazik Middle School, and one of those 4 students received her key to her house or her dwelling today in the new Shepherd Square complex, so that was very exciting. It's a new day for Smoketown, and it's very exciting, so I just wanted to give a shout out for that. Are there any other reports and requests? Okay, thank you. There are 2 speakers to speak tonight, and I apologize for the lateness of the evening. I thank you for staying with us. Our first speaker is Lenore Moore, and there is 3 minutes. Ms. Moore, if you'd like to join us. 2.5 minutes. You'll hear the bell sound once, and then after 30 seconds, you'll have 30 seconds to finish your statement, and then the bell will sound twice. I do apologize for the lateness of the evening, but thank you for being here tonight. Ms. Moore.
Right. Good evening, board members, Ms. Porter, Superintendent Hargens. I've been here before, so some faces I know. I just want to touch a minute on like the rights of students, like in the schools systems. It seems as though like they don't. It seems when I put my child in JCPS, I did not sign her rights away, his rights away. They can't continue to be beaten up like in the schools and everything. And if they are jumped, I don't understand how, if a child is jumped, if someone jumps your child in Jefferson County Public Schools, how is she also suspended? They're saying that there's a Jefferson County Public Schools has no self-defense. You can't defend yourself, and everyone is suspended. Some of these. I see Jefferson County, they're going and trying to do good and change the schools around, but some of the schools can interpret these policies any way that they would like to interpret these policies. Now, all the wonderful programs that's going on and the things that's going on to improve JCPS, that's going to leave a lot of students out, a lot of minority students, not only African Americans, but they're going to leave them out because if, kids are going to be kids, and if they're punished for every little thing that they do, that keeps a certain ethnicity of students out of the program. All these lovely programs, everyone should be able to enjoy them, and not some. Because if there's a suspension or referral can keep you from participating in programs in school, it can stop you from going to certain schools. It keeps a certain Title I kids mostly stuck in low-performing schools, and that's not, they've been working on the low-performing schools a while. I remember at one time they was going to fire principals after 2 years. That didn't work, and then you tried something else. That didn't work. The problem is sometimes some administrators, they treat the Title I kids unfairly. If you get extra money because Title I kids are coming to your school, and then the teachers want extra money to teach the Title I schools, okay, could we probably teach the children instead of, negativing them to death, stereotype them and keep them in a certain downward spiral, they're not going to progress. They're going to stay right down there as it has been. Minority children's, they low performing, and whatever thing you want to say is because they're not getting the same attention as the others that are in these schools. I think that it should be all universal all over, so that all children are treated fairly. And I come to the board seeing if you all could make something. Kids should be able to defend themselves. You have bullying, but you do have bullying something in place for kids to stop them from being bullied. But if the administrators in the school aren't enforcing that policy, you got kids running around being bullied and walked around and followed and talked mean to all day, and they're jumping them, and then they're getting suspended. And that put the suspension on their records so that they're stuck in this low-performing school.
Ms. Moore, thank you. And the process, I think you know, is we refer everything to Dr. Harkins.
Yeah.
And either Dr. Harkins or a staff member will be in touch with you for specifics to try to get issues resolved.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
I did want to say I've seen changes, and I've seen that JCBS is doing it. They're doing it. A lot of things that before weren't very good, they've been addressed, and you can see the good changes in it that the board members are trying. They want y'all schools to be good, but if one bad apple will spoil everything. So if you got a few people in your area that's working on their own agenda, then that pretty much kind of brings your school and your area down as well. And that's
Thank you for being here
Thank
tonight.
you.
I do apologize for the lateness. Sandra Robertson. Sandra Robertson. Sandra Robertson. That completes our speakers for this evening. There is no executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn? Ms. Haddad, second. Mr. Brady, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much for being here. Our next meeting is March the 24th. March the 24th.